Hello, welcome to Prajim Technologies. I am Venkat. This is part 22, Method Hiding in C Sharp. In this session, we will learn method hiding and invoking hidden base class members. Let's look at an example. In the previous session, we have actually created an employee base class and we have created two child classes, part-time employee and full-time employee from the employee base class. Okay, so if you haven't watched my previous session on inheritance, I would strongly encourage you to do so before watching this video session. Alright, so I have an employee class, the base class, where we have first name, last name, and print full name method within the base class. Now let's go ahead and create a part-time employee class which inherits from the employee class. So part-time employee inheriting from employee class. And similarly, let's go ahead and create a full-time employee class which also inherits from employee class. Okay, now if I have to go ahead and create a part-time employee object or a full-time employee object, I can do so. F full-time employee FTE equals new full-time employee. And from inheritance, we know that if a class derives from a base class, all the all the code that's present in the base class is also available to the child class. So that concept enables us to initialize this full-time employee object's first name and last name. So first name equals, let's say, full-time and FTE dot last name equals maybe employee. And let's say I want to print this employee's full name, we can call the print full name method. Okay. Similarly, if I have to go ahead and create a part-time employee, I can do so, but I have to use the part-time employee object. So part-time employee is equal to new part-time employee. We need to change the reference variable name. Part-time employee PTE is equal to new part-time employee. And we can say part-time employee dot first name equals part-time and part-time employee dot last name equals employee and part-time employee dot print full name. Now if we go ahead and run this, as you might expect, what's going to happen? It will print the full-time employee and part-time employee names. Okay, so which is expected. But now let's say my manager told me, all right, a full-time employee name printing is fine, but by looking at the name, I should be able to tell whether if he's a part-time employee or a full-time employee. So if it is a part-time employee, then I want a hyphen contractor appended to his name, so that just by looking the list of employee names, I can figure out who is a full-time employee and who is a part-time employee. Okay, so to do that, what we can do is, okay, in my part-time employee, I can go ahead and provide a full name, print full name function. But look at this, when we do that, this part-time employee class is actually inheriting from employee base class, which has already got a method called print full name. In my derived class also, I'm having print full name method. Now if I do that, what happens? This method will actually hide this method. Okay, so when I say part-time employee dot print full name, what happens is it invokes this method and not the parent class method. Okay, so what did we say? We wanted in the output, hyphen contractor word appended to the end of the name. So we can say contractor. Fine. Now with this change, if we go ahead and run this, what's going to happen? For part-time employee hyphen contractor, we get that as expected. Now look back the code. Look at this. There is a green squiggly underneath that print full name function. What does that indicate? That indicates that, and if you look at the warning message there, the green squiggly actually indicates a warning. So what is this warning about? It is saying that in the part-time employee class, the print full name is hiding the inherited print full name. This method from this employee, we have inherited that, but since this method is here, it is hiding that. Okay, so use the new keyword if hiding was intended. Okay, if you intended to hide this method, then use a new keyword. Okay, so it's just alerting the developer, all right, you already have a print full name in the base class. Okay, and you have a print full name in the derived class as well, which will effectively hide the base class method. If your hiding is intentional, then use the new keyword. Okay, so we can go ahead and use the new keyword. So the moment we do that, and then if I go ahead and run this once again, so what's going to happen, the output is the same, except that we don't get that warning anymore. Okay, so basically, if you want to hide a base class member, then you use the new keyword. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, now let's say, okay, I have hidden the base class member. So anytime I say child class object dot that method, it only calls the child classes method. But then let's say I want to, for some reason, call the base class method. Okay, in spite of me hiding the base class method, I want to be in a position to call the base class method. How do I do that? There are several ways to do that. One simple way of doing that is actually to use the base keyword. So in my child class, instead of doing this, if you want to call your base class method, what you can do is you can use the base keyword dot print full name. And the moment you do that, base refers to the employee class. Look at this, the IntelliSense shows that. And when I say print full name, so look at the IntelliSense, it says employee.print full name. So you can use the base keyword to call the hidden base class member. That's one way. So if I go ahead and run this now, you should look at the output part-time employee without that hyphen contractor, proving that we are using the base class print full name method. Okay, so that's one way. What's the other way? The other way is actually to typecast. If you remember, in part 3, I think, we spoke about data type conversions and we used a typecast operator. Similarly, what we can do is we can use the typecast operator and convert this part-time employee object to be of type parent. And remember, inheritance concept in the inheritance chapter that we have discussed, a child class is a specialization of its base class. Okay, so which means a child class has got all the capabilities of the base class plus whatever is special to that child class. It's just like a gynecologist. A gynecology is a specialization, whereas general surgeon is a general surgeon. So a gynecologist can do the roles and responsibilities of a general surgeon plus gynec. Okay, so similarly, your part-time employee can fulfill all the responsibilities of the employee class. Okay, so that fact allows us to perform a cast on this object so that it can behave as a parent class. Okay, so how do I do that? Instead of saying directly pte.print full name, what I can do is, all right, I have this parent part-time employee object. What I want to do now is use the typecast operator and convert that to be of type employee. And on this converted object, I want to go ahead and call the print full name method. Now, if you look at the IntelliSense here, print full name, it's saying employee.print full name. So employee base class employee classes print full name method will be called. So if I go ahead and run this now, we should get part-time employee without that hyphen contractor, proving again that the base class hidden method is called. Okay, so this is one way. And another way, which is essentially similar to the same thing but doing it with a different syntax, is that I can say, okay, so instead of this we can say pte dot print full name. Now you know that if we do this and run this program, what's going to happen? It's going to bring up the child class print full name method, but we wanted to call the base class print full name method. And to do that, instead of using a child class reference variable, I can use the parent class reference variable. Now remember the fact that a child class object can fulfill all the responsibilities of a parent class. So that fact again allows us to assign an object, okay, an object of child type to a reference variable of type parent. Okay, now look at this. This PTE is actually an object of type employee, and employee object.print full name will call the parent class print full name method. So if I go ahead and run that, look at that part-time employee. without that hyphen contract, again proving that the hidden base class member is called. Okay, but you might be thinking, okay, can I do this? Part-time employee, PTE is equal to new employee. You can't do this. This will give you a compiler warning because an employee object cannot fulfill all the responsibilities of a part-time employee. So this is not possible, but vice versa is possible. A child class, a parent class reference variable can point to a child class object, whereas a child class reference variable cannot point to a parent class object. Okay, so keep that in mind because this forms the foundation for understanding the next concept, which is polymorphism. Parent class reference variables can actually point to child class objects. In that chapter, we will also discuss, the primary difference between object reference variables and objects themselves. Okay, but anyhow, in this session, we have seen that if you want to hide a base class member, we use the new keyword. If you don't use the new keyword, okay, the base class member gets hidden, but you will get a compiler warning. This is just to alert the developer, okay, if you there is a base class member hiding happening. If your hiding is intentional, then go ahead and use the new keyword. Okay, and we have seen that there are different ways to invoke a hidden base class member from the derived class. One is to simply use the base keyword. The other one is to use the cast on the child type to be your parent type and then invoking the hidden member. And the other way is actually making the parent class reference variable point to a derived class object and then saying parent class object dot that hidden member, which again calls the base class's hidden method. On this slide, you can see additional resources for ASP.NET and C# interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.